Well, they build new houses.
All right, let's try this again. So again, Vayeitzei Yaakov. We're starting the parsha Vayeitzei Yaakov in Beersheva. So where's Yaakov running away from? Yaakov's running away from Esau. His brother is trying.
I like the name
Esau. That's how they say it, man.
Okay.
Who last week was born with him and stole the Bechor. He stole the Bechor from him. And then he stole the brachas from Esav. So Esav is pretty upset. The in of itself is pretty interesting that Esav's so upset. I didn't shtel on that Nakuda last week, but here he is. He's the guy that obviously doesn't care about the Bechorah, doesn't care about brachas. He's killing.
He cares about the bracha, of course. What do you mean? He knew that Yitzchak was legit. He wasn't
right.
For Gashmis.
So
Oh.
We weren't even sure was the shalom was for us or not. Now he's tell us. Oh, David. Okay, fine.
Don't worry,
We get them mixed up.
I'm his bigger brother.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Don't worry, I'll take the compliments on.
Yeah, take a compliment, doesn't hurt.
Different children.
So yes, I mean we didn't tell last week why.
Just sit down.
Why Esav, anyways, was so obsessed. But like we were saying, he's obsessed with the physicality of the brachas. Yitzchak is going to give a bracha that you can be rich.
So Yaakov gave him Yisrael gave Yaakov the bracha. Yeah, Esav will be subservient to you.
So that sounds good, right?
So now he's going to be subservient. I don't know if he knew that, but
Right. I mean, someone told the story this morning. We were speaking. The Nachman said that you have to be mechazik no matter where you are to be a yid, to do nekudas tovos. Doesn't matter if you're in Shal Tachtias, you're in India, wherever you are. Do some things. He said some yid walked into a yid, never a yid, long hair, piercings, everything's in India for a year already. And he's sitting there, walks into a restaurant, and he goes, "No, give me bread." And of course, the waiter there was Israeli, also, with all the long hair and everything. So he gives him bread. He rips into it, and he says, "No, give me that stuff. That also looks really good." So he said, "I'm not going to give it to you." What do you mean you're not? It's not kosher. It's like it was like pig or something. He's like, "I don't care. I'm not Jewish." He goes, "Don't give me that. You're a yid."
Look me in the face.
He says, "You're a yid." He goes, "Well, how do you know?" So he goes, "When I gave you the bread, the people here, they eat the bread, they throw if there's crumbs on the floor." He said, "You're eating the bread and you're going like this to the crumbs." Pushing like the school for Parnassa, you eat the crumbs. He still had it built in, like you don't throw the crumbs on the floor, you eat the crumbs, that's segula. Yeah, you're right. Even no matter where, segula for Parnassa to eat the crumbs. Now that you know that, you're going to be rich, and you give me 10%. Anyways, so
you're good to Shiva, by the way.
Yeah, there you go. Don't worry, I've been trying it for a while. No,
the fundraising techniques is built into the learning.
They're very big Indian, the crumbs, you should know.
The crumbs are the biggest Indian.
It's especially this week because it's by Yaakov when he went to get the Kalim, right?
The Pachim Ketanim.
Yeah,
That's this week's parsha.
Mm-hmm. No, that's
next week.
Next week my job getting done.
Yeah.
He's very excited about it.
Very excited. We're pumped about next week. You're already getting stuff.
That's the whole Indian. That there's mamish no Jew left behind. It's really no spark too small.
No Jew will be left.
I hear. We'll get to that. Chanukah, the Pach Shal Shemen. Kitzer, so the Magal Mukha said, Vayeitzei is Rashi Tevas Vayar Yaakov Tzuras Aleph. Yaakov Avinu, now that he's running away and he's in danger and he's nervous and he's running, he saw the Tzura Aleph. He kept in front of him in his eyesight the form of the Aleph. What is that? So the Magal Mukha explains the Alufa Shel Olam. Right, the Alufa Shel Olam means the Rebbe of the world, the leader of the world, which is Hashem. Meaning that wherever he went, it was difficult times. He was running, he was on the run. It was difficulties, but he just kept Hashem in front of him. Wherever he was, he kept Hashem with him. Doesn't matter if he was in good times, if he was in bad times, like we always say from the Heilige Rebbe Reb Nachman, he says on the pasuk of Tehillim, Esak Shemaim Shamata, if you reach up to Shemaim Shamata, Hashem is still higher. Keep going. And if you're in the pits of Gehenna, Hashem is right there with you. Never give up wherever you are. The name Yosef in of itself, which is in this week's parsha, and the end of the parsha relates to that. The reason why Rachel gave the name Yosef was twofold, right? Osaf es cherpasi, that's the aspect of Vatzia Sholi Neka, even in my disgrace, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is taking in my disgrace now. And then she said, not only that, Yosef li ben Achar. Hashem should add more. Even when she's having good and bad, the name Yosef in itself represents this concept of in the high times go higher and the low times stay strong with Hashem. And I think if you look at Yosef's life, as we'll see in the next few parshas, you'll see that Yosef was mamish, a living example of this. He went through such highs and such lows, like you don't see in practically any of the others, For sure not he's just the highest. He's still 17, he's flying high, learning, boom, to the bottom. He gets into the house of Potiphar,
By the way,
the lowest.
Now, all the Avos, so to speak, all the Ushpizin in that sense,
Yeah.
all had these experiences.
They did.
Abraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov,
No, for sure.
Moshe, and Aaron.
Yeah.
And Yosef, and David.
The extreme
Fluctuation.
fluctuations of the ups and downs, I think you see Yosef very intensely. Like he was the lowest pits of the house of like a slave in there, he became the highest of the house. Then you had the whole Ashes Potiphar, boom, to the pits of Gehenna. Then one day, just boom, he's lifted up to the king of Egypt. It was like very radical changes in Yosef's life. But that's the Nakuda. No matter where you are, Mesek Shemayim Shomata V'Atziyah She'al Yineka.
What's the quote?
It's a pasuk in Tehillim. In Esak Shemayim,
Esak?
Esak, Aleph Samach Kof,
Yeah.
which is the shame. Ksa.
This was so
Look it up
good,
in
man.
Esak Shemayim Shomata
And
V'Atziyah She'al Yineka. Yisrael Dagan, beautiful
Which
song.
part, which kapitel?
I don't know it offhand. It's in Torah Vav and Likutei Moharan. Breslovers, they don't know where things are except for in Likutei Moharan. And then, you want to know where the Zohar is, where the pasuk is? So just look it up in Likutei Moharan. Sorry, that's all that simple. So it's in Torah Vav, a beautiful Torah. But Esak is like from Akitzer. So yeah, we're back on. So in Esak Shemayim, if you reach up to Shemayim, Shamata, Kadosh Baruch Hu is higher. V'atziyah she'ol, and if you're in the pits of Gehenna, Hashem is with you. So there's a famous Baal Shem Tov, take some birthday cake. It's turkey cake. Parvit turkey cake. Can't get better.
Turkey cake.
In Esak, the Baal Shem Tov says that if and when you stay focused, this is one of these great Baal Shem Tov / Reb Chaim Volozhin stories, where they all come together. Even though it seems like at a certain point that they were trying to chase each other out of town, but obviously they were all tzaddikim, they were all saying the same thing. So the Baal Shem Tov said that if you remember HaKadosh Baruch Hu powerfully in your mind, wherever you go, no bad can come. And the idea is really brought out more powerfully, so to speak, in Nefesh HaChaim, or Chaim Volozhin's Sefer, and he has a whole chapter about this as a segula for people that are in difficult situations to just really focus on Einad Mavadai and just repeat it over and over again. And what? Einad Mavadai.
Ask you a question?
Well, yeah.
Isn't that, it doesn't mean like literally, I think it means like in general, if you remember Hashem and His ways and the way the Torah is and you follow what you're supposed to do, you do the things that it makes sense, then things will be good.
I mean, not just like Stam. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
But it's actually in reality also there's a story. I remember reading that in the Holocaust. I don't know who it was.
Yeah. We'll get to some stories about this, but yeah, let me hear.
The Animalado.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know who it was. And, he was like a rub, and he was just saying that just don't be Masiach Tas from sick Animalado the whole time. And wherever they were going, and they basically walked right in front of the Nazis, and they completely just didn't notice them.
Yeah, it's a segula. It's something that's a little bit beyond teva, beyond nature, but it is something that really works. It's been seen to happen. And Reb Chaim Volozhin's great grandson, the Beis Levi, the beginning of the Briskers, for whom we all very excited about always. So he has a bunch of stories that happened, but he
Very subtle.
very subtle area, I guess. No. Baruch Hashem. My uncle's married to his daughter, I think. So we're practically mishpacha.
Yeah.
I'm practically a son-in-law to the Brisker dynasty. I could take over.
Don't tell me a business because I'm walking out.
Oh no! Don't go there. Anyway, so the story goes. It's good enough for a story though. So the Russian army drafted. This is mamish haintige inyonim. You guys can get involved in politics now. Whoever wants to take the conversation to politics, the gius, the required draft. But the Russian army drafted Reb Chaim, who was to become Reb Chaim Brisker, the Beis Levi's son, into the army. And so him and the Beis Levi, they went to the conscription office, and he just said, just keep learning and keep focusing on this chapter. They had the chapter there, and they just kept learning it. There's nothing other than Hashem. There's nothing. And he keeps going through it, and he keeps repeating the mantra of Einon Mavada, so to speak. And sure enough, the doctor checks out Reb Chaim, and they wrote Patur from the Russian army, which was practically a death sentence there. like with no explanation. Like he was a perfectly, healthy person, but they just wrote, no, he can't come to the army. There's all, in Eretz Yisrael, there's a whole, I don't know anyone here that's Israeli or half Israeli even, but a lot of the guys have to play games with go there and act crazy and act nuts and all this stuff, or Mavada stuff. Rav Chaim Kramer, my Rebbe, told me that back in his day, which I don't know how many years ago it was, one of his friends decided he's not running away from the army anymore. He's a wrestler. He's going to the army and he'll do his thing. So he said he got there and he did all the exercises and everything. After they were done, everyone was like, poop, they're going on to bed, 12 at night. An hour later, it's Chatzos, he wakes up, the guy, he goes out, he starts screaming, Abba! For like an hour doing his does crying, thinking Chatzos, basic training. Yeah, it's like wearing his thing, and he's like telling everyone the greatness of Hashem and Chizuk and Reb Nachman. And he said within the week, they kicked the guy out. They wrote all the platoon. They were like, you're not allowed ever back into an army base. He said the guy was real deal. Like you just wouldn't sleep. You would just keep going.
I have a friend that went to the army. He played the real yeshiva life, sleeps, and the guy came and waked him up, and he just kept sleeping and just leave me alone. Middle of the day, we went back sleeping. Whatever, he played the real yeshiva life.
No.
After 2-3 days, they kicked him out.
Usually they don't do that. Usually they put him in what's called a jail there, which my friends were all in very often.
Because they looked at him.
Practically lived there.
They looked at him and they thought it's going to be a game for the next few months.
I got you. Yeah.
Leave.
I had a friend of mine that was an interesting guy, and he was actually a very genuine guy. And he said that they came into the office. He wasn't going to play games. Just straight. They have a psychologist there to see if the guy's mentally fit. They said, Sanu, what are you afraid of? So he looked at him. He goes, I'm not afraid of death at all. Like I'm absolutely no fear of dying. He said no fear of dying. He said the only thing I'm really afraid of is myself. And he was very serious because he's a very deep guy. And they were like, okay. And they wrote him a tour. He wasn't playing games.
I can see that, by the way. I could. In that sense, like, I can understand people not fearing death, but like.
I don't fear death.
Whatever. That was what he said. Anyways, but the truth of the matter is that, I mean, I had a story with this, Yosef. You were asking for stories. Me and a bunch of Chevra, we went to Gush Katif. It was going back a good 15 years ago when they were still pumping, but they were already talking to get rid of it. So they made a whole concert in the summer to be mechazik, and we went down there on armored buses, and they had a separate beach there. It was gorgeous. It was like a beautiful place, Gush Katif.
Yeah, I know.
It was like Gan Eden. It was in Gaza, yeah. I mean, yeah, like they were in the middle of like a million Arabs around them, so they had literally tanks and trucks, and on the beach there was these 4 guys with massive guns walking around. It was like pretty intense. But we were there
Surrounded or all around there?
all around. It's like
No,
it's totally surrounded. I mean, they had some distance, I guess, but at Kitzer, we were there, and then afterwards they had a concert. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful night. But then at the end, we were getting really exhausted, and we wanted to just go back, and there was no buses. There was problems with the buses, so we were like, okay, there's a taxi guy there. He was like, I'll take you back for whatever, 150 shekel. We're like, okay, 4 guys, let's jump in. We jumped in, and we started driving, and we're like, that was pretty stupid. We're in like a little dinky taxi with no bulletproof windows. Driving straight up, might have been an Arab driver. I think it was Jewish. Driving straight through Gaza. You have to like drive through this like highway. There's just both sides Gaza, and it was very intense. It was the Intifada then. It was bombings and shootings all the time. Yonasan, Shalom Aleichem. Everyone's bringing food this way. So
they give me, they're like offering me take.
Okay, at Kitzer, so we were driving, and at a certain point we all realized that we're in big trouble. It's like not the smartest thing to do. So we all 3 of us, we were just, I think it was 4 guys, we all just started like, we remember this from Chaim Volozhin, we were like, just do the Ein Olam Vada. We were just, literally like, we were singing it, we were humming it, we were thinking it, everyone was just, I remember being in that car just praying, Hashem, there is nothing else. Hashem, you can save us, you can protect us. We get by,
no atheists in the foxhole.
Yeah, I guess, there wasn't much of a choice there. We get out of the Machsom, and out of the, how do you say Machsom in English? Checkpoint. And we come into Israel again, and the guy like flips on the radio, because now that we're in Israeli airspace, we could hear. He's like, yeah, around 8 minutes ago, in the beginning of the road there was like three or 4 cars that were shot up. Baruch Hashem, everyone made it, but like they were shooting on the road. We were driving on like maybe 10 minutes later. So we were like, Baruch Hashem, everyone was okay, but we saw that in a Mavado, you just keep it in your head, keep it in your mind. Hashem exists. It's not so easy to do that all the time, but like you said, ain't no atheists in a foxhole. When you have that, that moment, it is something to throw yourself on. Getting to the point of Yaakov Avinu. So there's a cool story. Yaakov Avinu, again, he was running away. We know that there was a certain count, and because of that count that he was away from his own parents, he got punished. Yosef was away from him. But the 14 years that he learned in Yeshiva Shem Ve'ever, he didn't get punished for. What did he do there? He sat and learned all, add in all of the Litvish Musar Shmuzin and Shmuzin that you'll hear about that. Sitting and learning, don't move from the base medrash, just sit and learn. He didn't go to sleep on a bed. He just sat and learned for 14 years. So the truth of the matter is that it's an incredible thing to be so dedicated, to be 14 years just sitting and learning. There was a story, though, that I just read. It was a pretty incredible story that it really happened very recently. There's a Yid that never missed Daf Yomi. He was mamish one of these Daf guys. It would be snow. He would trek in there in Bnei Brak. It would 103-degree heat and the air conditioning broke. He would sit there sweating it through. And one time, but whatever the reason is, don't know exactly why, mamish had to miss Daf Yomi one night. He felt so.
Son's wedding.
Yeah, no, he was at home.
I actually know somebody that never missed the Daf Yomi. And even when he had his son's wedding, he sat by the wedding on his phone listening to another Shia.
Wow, under the chuppah. So, can you hold for a second? I just got to say a bracha. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu. Yeah, what were you? That's pretty interesting. But Reb Nassim, they say, had around 38 different shiurei Torah that he kept up, because he had everything. Meaning on a regular Wednesday when he had time, so he learned 3.5 blot Gemara, and he learned 5 blot Shulchan Aruch, and he learned 30 dafim and whatever and Zohar. He had like a seder, he had certain amounts, but then when it was Friday, he only learned like 2 blot, and then it was Erev Pesach, he only learned 1 blot of Gemara. He had like basically a sliding system based on the days that were just impossible to learn, how much he learned. And this way he'd always
At the end of the day, you kept on with everything.
No,
So
he would do that.
story.
He would do it like that. So, Kitzer, so this Yid sat at home, and he said, you know what, I'm not in this year, let me try to learn it. So he started to learn it, and he came to a Shver Rashi, didn't understand Rashi, so he's just sitting there trying to break his head. What is Rashi saying? Breaking his head. And as most of us that have kids know, you try to break your head for a good 2 or 3 minutes, and the house is quiet, he falls asleep. And in his sleep, he starts dreaming, and he sees this sweet, beautiful, resplendent Yid with a white beard. Mamish looks like an angel, comes to him and says, "Nu, what do you say about that Rashi?" So he says, "I'm learning this Rashi, but I don't understand it." So he says, "Come, sit down, let's learn." And he starts to explain him a beautiful pshat. Explains him in a mamish, gorgeous pshat. And as he's leaving, this Daf Yomi, it says, "Who are you?" So he says, "Rashba." He floats away. Guy wakes up. Fine. Obviously, he's not like the biggest Talmid Chacham, this guy. He was just a regular Daf Yomi Yid. And he comes to the Daf Yomi Shir the next day, and he tells the Maggid Shir, he says, "Listen, what happened to me? It's like a really weird thing. But I had this Rashi, I didn't understand." He explained to him this beautiful pshat, and he tells him over the pshat. It fit beautifully into Rashi. It was incredible. And he said that his name is Rashba. The Maggid Shir turns purple. He runs to the shelf. He pulls it off, opens it up. It's like mamish, almost word for word. The Rashba. Mamish. So he said, you see, like mamish, a Yid that just stays with the learning. He doesn't have to be a huge tzaddik.
This guy never not seen.
No, this is a guy Yid in Bnei Brak.
Wow, in modern times.
Like a few years ago, yeah.
Wow.
But he stayed, and he's probably not the biggest Talmid Chacham, he's not the guy giving the share, he's going to, they always say, if you give the film share, it's something, and go to the film share, it's nothing. No, he sits, he goes every day to the Daf Yomi share, and he sits there and he learns, tries to understand whatever he tries to understand, and he was like to see the Rashba and explain the Pshat and Rashi. The point is that dedication is something that's more important than anything, and everything. In people always say, they want segulas. People always say, how do you do his boyadus? How can you do his boyadus? How are you going to do it every day? So I said, listen, guys asked me, you have such a nice beard. How do you grow a beard? I said, the biggest segula, don't shave. You don't shave, you're going to grow a beautiful beard probably. And, guys, how are you supposed to get up in the morning? It's impossible. It's the biggest segula.
Just get up.
Just go to sleep on time. go to sleep 9 o'clock, you'll be able to get up at 6 o'clock, probably no problem. And if you don't, then whatever. Then you got to get other schoolers. But mamash, you go to sleep 9 o'clock, you'll probably be able to get up 6 o'clock and probably earlier. The point is that if you want to make things happen, so you make things happen properly. So even in this this and learning Torah and everything, if you make a time for something, it'll happen. If you don't make a time for it, it won't happen. You have to basically set yourself a time. Meals, you don't usually end up, maybe you don't because you just ate for your breakfast now at 10 o'clock at night. But usually people have a set thing. They eat breakfast, they eat lunch, they eat supper, or they eat one of them.
Breakfast is today in the morning.
One or two of them.
This is the next day.
Yeah, I'm saying so. Right, but very often, but even if you don't have a set, sometimes you have like like me. I don't have a set time, but I have like a time that I bring my kids to Gan. So I throw my sandwich in the car and I eat my breakfast in the car. You have some sort of rhythm to the day that gives you something. So too with all these things, with learning Torah or with hisbodedus or doing anything, you got to just make a time that's proper, and it'll help. Lamaisa, that's one thing. Dedication. You just got to keep dedicated. Another thing is to stay focused. So we just had a siyum here in the shul, and just as the guy was reading the Hadron Alach, so he said, thank you HaKadosh Baruch Hu that we're amongst those that sit in the base medrash, not amongst the Yoshvei Kronis, right? So what are Yoshvei Kronis? How do you say in Yiddish? Give me that good Yiddish word. The litigators, no?
Probably.
Is that a good word? There you go. The bums, the guys that Yoshvei Kronis. So what literally it means though? Literally Yoshvei means sitting. Kronis is the corners. So what is it? What is a pshat? It just struck me when the guy was saying it. What is the pshat? Corner dwellers, like street dwellers, guys that hang out. Why corner dwellers?
Illicit activity happens at street corners.
Street corner. That's where the bodega is. That's where it all goes down. I hear that.
You have the stuff, I have the money.
But what's the
corner?
What's the pshat? I think the pshat is also in that the corner. Why do they hang out in the corners? It's because the corners are geshmak. Because you see what's going on down there. You see what's going on down there. You see what's going on over there, and you see it's like the happening place. You could just keep looking from this place and see that thing and see that place and that. It's total absorption with nothing. You can just sit there being amused by the street all day long. If you're on one side of one street in the middle of 14th Avenue. A couple of people go this way. You're in a corner. It's like it's party central. You can just keep looking this way and that way.
Well, Muncie boys, we're talking about Main Street just by
Muncie. I don't know if we have any comparison even to what this means, but it basically means that you're unfocused.
It's right by an intersection.
7-Eleven's the corner. There you go. It's the corner of Muncie. I hear. I think it's just because it has cholent and it has hot dogs, honestly, and Slurpees, pickles. But you're right. But yeah, that's the point. When you're always running, the opposite of that is Yoshvei Beis Medrash. Yoshvei Beis Medrash literally means, if we take it to foil it to the opposite, it means that you sit and you focus. Yaakov Avinu sat and focused. The whole nakuda of having success in learning and having success in Yiddishkeit is just to stay focused on what you're doing. So nowadays we have very little focus because we have our phones, and all day we get another message and another thing, and we could technically be occupied with our phones. If it wasn't for the fact that we had to somewhat live life, we could live on our phones all day and all night. As literally, there's just except for Shabbos, but there's endless garbage and stupidity to be had there. So we could just technically live there all day. And it's like the kafakela, it's the slingshot of Gehenna. It's like from this thing to that thing to this thing to that thing. No settling of the mind, no focused anything in life. So we think that it's a problem that happened now, but the truth of the matter is that it's really been going on for thousands of years. The iPhone issue. Why? I had this experience. I went to shul when my divorce was like 3 to each other. You don't have to talk. It's a joke. You don't have text. The best that I mentioned.
And his flip phone. I don't sleep.
My iPhone doesn't text.
But because iPhone does.
You can get an iPhone just for stats.
Right?
But anyways, the Nakuda is that any eitzah that we use to try to focus ourselves, obviously if you have the phone and you could use it for good and use it for only good, that's the best. Not to have it is even better. But anything that we do realize is that we are going to have distractions, but the more we become dedicated and focused and realize that we have to just clear our minds from these things, Hasidim Rishonim Hayishah Sha'achas Lefnei Tefillah, they would sit, they would meditate, they would be mindful, they would calm their minds in order to just focus on HaKadosh Baruch Hu before davening. A lot of times we run into davening and we run out of davening, but we have to like literally take a
the crazy thing is, if you would have the whole hour like before davening, so just think you would your mind would just be racing all over the place. By the time you get to davening, it's just like
it would be clear.
No,
that's the.
I've had the experience a lot of like I used to like for a while I used to like learn before davening, and then like by the time I got to davening,
it'll take it a level down. 20 minutes, 30 minutes, after maybe even 40 minutes, you'll actually start to see the pictures slowly. You'll actually start to be able to focus, and after they say around 50 minutes, you'll be able to mamish focus on what you're doing. They say that it's mamish like around an hour.
For masters of meditation?
I don't know. Maybe they could jump up there quicker. Yeah, maybe.
It definitely could. I used to go to this thing with this meditation share with Reb Yoeli, and he was just like, almost a vertical takeoff, and I'm like, okay.
Right.
Through, I'm like, yeah, no, I'm just gonna sit here.
Right. There's ways to do it much quicker, I guess, if you're used to it and you know how to do it. But the nakuda is not to meditate necessarily, but to take a little bit of time to focus yourself and to do these things before davening, before learning, to basically to create a situation that we know what we're doing and that we're trying to do it better and more with more kavanah, with more focus. And just to end off the shir quickly, because it's getting late, it's getting verspätet. I don't know what that word means even. I don't know if verspätet means a word.
Combination of
few words. Yeah, there you go. So, anyways, the Yaakov Avinu lie his head on 12 stones. He put them around him, and then we know the famous story that they were all arguing. It's in the pasuk. So what's happening with the stones turning into one stone?
I'm sure they still have it in the museum.
Somewhere, yeah. And it's funny because in general we don't think of life as being a Disney movie where rocks talk and and candelabras dance and things like that. We usually think of life as being life, And since when do they fight, even if they were to talk? And since when do they morph into one? So maybe the word could be that when you're in front of a tzaddik and when you have a real ratzon to do something good, even a bunch of rocks could become one, right? When you have a real desire to do something, and in our hearts, right? Rav Nachman said, he said that his whole avodah was to change our hardened hearts into a leiv basar, which is the Oisis Breslav. The whole nakuda is to change our hearts into something that's flesh, that feels, that's alive, from the rocks that it is. So how can we change our rocks? That's very good, very good. Etymologically, you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to.
Sounds like it, but it's different wording.
No, but in the Hebrew language, when things sound the same, they could be interchanged very often. You'll see that in the Gemara very often also. But the word is that when you have a real ratzon to do something, you could even change your heart, and you could change 12 stones into one stone. You could change your heart into one heart. That mamish goes to Hashem. Hashem say, help us. To Vayeitzei, go out of the gullus. Rachamim gedolim, hirav yameinu mamish. Amen. Guten Shabbos.